In this video, we're going to cover outgoing invoices going out to your customers. And we're going to have a look at the setting and setting these claims up, presetting these stages. We're going to have a look at refundable deposit options, and we're going to take a quick look at the printed invoices and what they look like both with and without variations attached. Lastly, we will have a quick look at the invoice statement, which is really just a handy way of keeping your clients up to speed with the different claims as they go through. So let's jump right into it here. So the first thing is when I create this contract job and I tick the little box to say I want default stages or default invoices, and basically these are the 6 ones here. This is them. So they should mirror a fairly standard format, but if you do need to change yours once you have a quick look at it, really for any reason, it's really easy to do that and completely fine for you to delete some, make some major changes, minor changes, whatever you need to do. But if you want to change a percent here and there, again, totally fine. Just jump in to say, let's go into this stage and we're going to change the percent. And it's going to tell us what the maximum is, so you can't go too crazy on it. But one thing I really want to stress here is often people will come in and they'll go right to this stage and they'll say, all right, it's 20%, and it doesn't go that high. And we'll get a call saying, hey, why can't I change it? And the easy answer to this one is that all of these have to add up to 100%. So you can't leave without making it over or under. So if I need to add somewhere else, I have to make sure that I reduce it elsewhere and I rejig it. So again, making sure it ends up at that 100%. Now, you might want to make your own defined invoice stages and you can save them as well, and that's absolutely fine. There is a preset button in here, like a lot of other screens you've seen so far, and this preset will save both the names of the invoices, save any comments on them. It'll save the order that they appear in and the percentage. So particularly handy if maybe you do one setup of invoices for, say, renovations and maybe another setup for builds. So again, very easy to do and very handy to have multiple presets for the different type of work that you do. Now, before we go and actually issue any invoices, I just want to make one quick mention here to this refundable deposit. Now, it has a specific use, and the main reason for pointing it out is just so it gets used at the right time. So a refundable deposit, in our words, is a deposit or lump sum that you'll take up front and you'll later credit back over subsequent claims. Now, if that doesn't sound like something you do, then don't use it. You can completely ignore it and go through your normal claims as per usual. This gets used most in cost plus jobs and completion percentages, but everyone works a little different at times. So again, it's entirely up to you just to use it if it's something that's applicable. Excellent. Well, that being said, let's go ahead and issue the deposit. So I'm going to go in and I can put comments in. I can include change orders, which I will do at a later on, and it'll show the total dollars and how it's been calculated. And ultimately I'm saying, yep, invoice that, at which point it pops up with the due date, and you can change that to be what you need it to be. But when it's setting it up initially, you can just see in the background here, there is a default days that's across the whole entire account. So it's always going to go off that initially. If you're happy with all the info, go down and go save and close and print and have a quick look. As always though, print preview, or you can email it as well. It will just show you what it looks like in a second. But this is what the invoices look like. Now, it's going to have the customer information. And as mentioned earlier, I haven't put a huge amount in about myself as a customer, but all the information we've put in, the address, the phone number, all that goes in here. It will show claim amounts that the claim's for, and you can get multiple lines here if you need to add a change order in. The main thing that we recommend to people when they're first setting this up, just to ensure that A, your details about yourself are all correct, and B, that your payment terms are good. So for example, I've gone and changed my default days to 7, i.e. 7 business days is correct now. You might change it just to say, invoice must be paid within, by due date, and it will change that to cover all your bases. Whatever you change it to though, but the most common thing we see people change this around is to add bank details, which makes a ton of sense because otherwise, most likely customers will probably call you and say, hey, where do you want the money? It's a great problem to have, but it's a pretty easily avoidable one just to close this section off here. And I'll quickly show you where the editing for those payment terms are. So if you go into this cog here, click here, and then this will change it across your whole account. So you can go change it once and you're all good to go. Now, one other thing I want to show you is this email button, because when I pop it up and it's asking whether I want to send the invoice or the invoice and statement. So I'm going to spend a moment just taking you through this statement because I think it's well worth covering and gives a lot of information to your customer. Now, you can print it on your own, which I'll do via this cog here, and you can email it or just send it on its own. So what this is about really, it's essentially a summary of the whole job. So all the invoices, all the change orders will show in here. It will show you, what they're on the hook for invoice-wise right now, how much I've received from them, how much is pending, and it's just a high-level view from the perspective of contract totals. And it'll show the original, and it will show, again, all those change orders and the adjusted total. So a really good document just to keep people in the loop. Now, let's go into another invoice and add the change order. So there's going to be two ways you can do this, mainly because we get people to do it in different ways, and that's okay. Just before I jump in, though, I'm going to mark this off as being paid as well. So this deposit, which is something that we'll need to do. So just to say we received the payment, it pops open. Always like just wanting to know how much, because generally you're going to get the whole amount up front. But there certainly are instances where we've seen where people have daily bank limits or people hitting the wrong amount or just things like that will essentially make it a part payment. And you can manage those in here. So I'm just going to say for now, yep, full amount. And I'm going to say it's received. And it's going to record that payment. So it's all good now. So the next stage here, and what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to, and this is possibly not the right time to be invoicing for, say, the cooktop and downlights we spoke about in the change order video, but the example is still the same. So you can grab them here, and then we'll add them to the invoice, and then as you can see here, it's done all the math. It'll add, in this case here, these lines to the invoice. So we'll just have one for the claim, one for the downlights, and one for the cooktop. And when it does go to your accounting, which it will, again, if you have the integration we've talked about before, as soon as I invoice it, then we'll have multiple lines there as well. So that's just one way of invoicing and getting the money sorted for your change order. If you have negative change orders, they really just need to go against a claim like. So we can say, yep, the total amount minus a change order amount. However, if they're still positive, then you can do the second method as well, which is to say, hey, I didn't put it on say the base. You can actually see here because there's no change order amount here. Instead, I'm going to add a totally new invoice and just say, claim amount, nothing percent of the contract. And this is just about my change orders and to confirm that you can see no contract value. So the reason you might want to do this is, let's say there's a bank involved and you have the customer paying change orders out of the pocket and they just want to keep that very separate. So that's a great way to tackle that problem. Excellent. So one subtle thing I haven't really pointed out very much is this bar will change color based on how much is happening in this screen here. And right now it's gone back to the contract total, and this is the adjusted total, i.e. the original plus the change orders. And it's saying all of that amount is taken care of in this screen. I haven't missed anything. And really important to keep an eye out. Green is good, blue is everything else. So if it's ever not green, it'll say why. And generally this is because you've added a change order and it hasn't been added to the invoices yet. So it does also flag sometimes if you have been tinkering with this and you've maybe perhaps made a mistake and you've just ended up with these less than 100. So do keep an eye on it. It's just a really good way of ensuring that your invoicing for everything is going along as it needs to be. And that's invoicing.